Intensified po ang pag-search po dahil alam po natin malakas po ang agos ng kuryente po doon. Kung malakas ang alon at saka mataas ang alon at malakas ang agos po, it is one of the factors. Usually the case if you would look at the reports or incidents related to sinking of ships.
Search is underway for passengers and crew of two ill-fated passenger vessels in Mindanao. One of them a motorboat, which reportedly set sail without permission. Mobile journalist Marimon Reyes has tonight's big story.
Cries for help filled the air in the dark sea of Basilan around 1 in the morning on Monday. That's after a roll-on roll-off vessel MV Trisha Kirsin 3 sank while en route to Holosulu from Zamboanga City. Response from authorities was immediate, but rescue was extremely difficult because of sea conditions.
Yung time na na-receive po yung distress signal was at around 1 a.m. So immediately nag-respond po ang Philippine Navy to include the other maritime agencies dun sa area. So pagdating doon, maraming tao na po na nasa gitna. However, the first responder was si Allison po, yung company ng MV Trisha Kirsten. So sila po yung una nandun, and there were also a lot of fishermen, fishing boats. Intensified po ang pag-search po dahil alam po natin malakas po ang agos ng kuryente po doon. Lalo na po this happened somewhere in Baluk-Baluk. So it is northeast of Baluk-Baluk Island. It is open doon it is in between Zamboanga and Basilan po.
By 10 in the morning, or after 9 hours of the ship sinking, 316 have been rescued. Unfortunately, 15 were confirmed dead, while more than 24 passengers remain missing. Investigation is underway as to the cause of the mishap. The Philippine Coast Guard had earlier reported that the vessel was not overloaded.
I would like to share my thoughts on it. Usually, kung malakas ang alon at saka mataas ang alon at malakas ang agos po, it is one of the factors, especially if a ship is, if there's a problem in terms of the stability. I'm not saying na may problem doon, but it is usually the case if you would look at the reports or incidents related to sinking of ships po.
On another tragedy at sea, 6 were confirmed dead from the ill-fated MBCA Amihara in Davao Occidental. The cadavers were already in the early stage of decomposition, while 9 people are still missing. The passenger boat left Santa Ana Wharf in Davao City on January 17 en route to Governor Generoso, Davao Oriental. It was expected to arrive January 19, but strong winds and currents caused it to capsize. The PCG had earlier said MBCA Amihara set sail without a permit. For now, authorities are focused on searching for the victims.
We are still conducting through the leadership of the Office of Civil Defense yung intensified search and rescue pa rin po. As of now, our priority is the conduct of search and rescue and to see to it that these 9 passengers will be located. So in terms of the investigation, we will leave that to the Philippine Coast Guard.
Kapatid mobile journalist Marimon Reyes, we are One News.
Meantime, 15 Filipino crew members of the ill-fated MV Davon Bay have been accounted for. The survivors, along with the remains of their 2 shipmates, arrived in Manila Bay early this morning. They were rescued in west waters off Scarborough Shoal by Chinese Coast Guard when their ship capsized in rough waters last Friday. The seafarers were then transferred to the Philippine Coast Guard vessel Teresa Magbanwa, which brought them back to Manila. The MV Davon Bay was on its way to Yangjiang, China from Zamboanga when it sank. The ship was reportedly carrying nickel ore. The Philippine Coast Guard has expressed its appreciation to their Chinese counterparts for their rescue despite current tensions in the West Philippine Sea.
On the side of China, mayroon yung Hong Kong Maritime Rescue Coordinating Center. Yung dalawang centers po ang nag-usap kung paano po i-undertake yung search and rescue operations na ito. Yung coordination has been very smooth dahil ang buhay ng tao ay mahalaga. It knows no border, wala tayong pinag-uusapang territory or jurisdiction.
Still on the West Philippine Sea, the Department of Foreign Affairs has filed a protest before the Chinese ambassador and the Chinese embassy in Manila. In a statement, the DFA said it has made firm representations to the Chinese ambassador over his escalating public exchanges with Philippine legislators and officials. The DFA also reiterated its support for Filipino officials to perform their lawful duties in defense of the country's sovereignty. However, it emphasized the need for respectful and professional public debate. Just this month, the Chinese embassy went head-to-head with Philippine government officials and legislators over China's actions in contested waters. The heated exchange began after new Chinese ambassador Qing Chuan took office.
And aside from the DFA, 15 senators crossing party lines have signed a resolution condemning the actions of the Chinese embassy in Manila. The measure was introduced by Senator Kiko Pangilinan, who was also at the receiving end of the Chinese embassy's statements. The resolution stresses that the language used by a Chinese embassy official directed at incumbent members of Congress departs from the restrained courtesy and responsibility expected of diplomatic communications. It also runs counter to the principles of mutual respect and non-interference among states. In her privileged speech today, Senator Risa Ontiveros also criticized the Chinese embassy's behavior.
Pagkakaalam ko po nasa Pilipinas tayo. Wala tayo sa China. This is the Philippines. And we are in a democracy. Ang freedom of speech ay hindi lisensya para sa representante ng isang dayuhang bansa na manghimasok, manakot at mambastos sa mga Pilipino dito in the name of free speech.
Now let's discuss these further with our guest tonight, AFP spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad. Welcome to the Big Story, sir.
Yes, ladies, good evening.
Good evening. Now, let's go first, if we may, to the three separate sea incidents in Basilan, Davao Occidental, and of course in the West Philippine Sea. What is the status of the search and rescue operations?
Yes, as of now, the Philippine Navy is heavily involved in the search and retrieval. First and foremost in Naval Forces Eastern Mindanao for motor Bangka Amihara. The other day, they recovered 5 cadavers. It was quite far, medyo southern part of Balut Island, Sarangani, close to the border of the Philippines and Indonesia. So we have 2 ships over there right now and 2 aircraft. In Basilan Strait, we also have this morning, the incident this morning, the Allison Shipping Line, their ship, the name Asia Kirstine 3. So right now, we also have 2 patrol craft doing the search and rescue in the Straits of Basilan, close to Balok Island. While up north, we're also heavily involved in coordination with the Philippine Coast Guard. They were the first to be able to respond. We maintain close coordination with them as they continue the search and retrieval.
Let's begin with the case of motor Bangka Amihara. What was the cause of the capsizing? Did they really have a permit to leave the port?
As to the details, ladies, of the permit, I would leave it up to the Coast Guard. But the report that we got was that because of the strong waves and the winds, ito ay tumaob madaling araw. And one of their crew was able to swim and he was recovered. While the others, napadpad sila towards the direction southwesterly, which would bring them to the open sea, that is the border of Philippines and Indonesia. That is where the search of the Philippine Navy aircraft and the ships were focused on. And I think it was yesterday morning, when they found the bangka and some cadavers.
Rear Admiral, would you know if merong gale warning in effect or a no-sail kind of edict in place nung umalis si motor bangka Amihara from port?
Ladies, I will have to defer to the Coast Guard
Okay.
on the details. Pero yung ganitong panahon ngayon, malakas ang hangin when we come to the open sea. Southern Philippines, south of Mindanao, malakas yung alon, malakas yung hangin. But it doesn't mean na pag malakas, we will still depend on the Coast Guard for any clearance to set sail or not.
Okay.
In the case of the Allison craft sa Basilan, ano naman po ang cause?
Yes, we will defer again to the Coast Guard. They are responsible for that. What Naval Forces Western Mindanao, or rather Western Mindanao Naval Command, received was a distress call. They were able to respond by sending 2 of our newer ships, our patrol craft. They were able to support the search and rescue. Maraming pasahero ito, 300 plus. It's so sad na may mga nasawi nito. But I would like to give to commend our Navy people and the Coast Guard and the other fisher folks in the vicinity sapagkat malapit lang ito sa Balok-Balok Island and the eastern part of Basilan Island. They were also able to assist in the rescue of the passengers.
So,
Admiral,
mahangin din po, masama ang panahon din doon sa lugar na yon.
Yes, if you notice, parehas ito sa Mindanao nangyari, southern part of the island, of the landmass. Malakas yung alon, malakas yung hangin. And yung Allison shipping, these ships of theirs, they have been flying the route from Basilan, Isabela to Zamboanga or Jolo. So they are familiar with the place. Familiar nila. It just so happened, most likely, na malakas yung alon, malakas yung hangin.
Well, sir, given that the conditions at sea are very challenging, gaano katagal po ba i-conduct itong search and rescue operations, especially if wala na pong mahanap na survivors or ilang mga bangkay na rin?
Yes, the first phase would be the search and rescue. Usually after 3 or 4 days, it becomes search and retrieval. So hanggat may guidance, wala pang guidance na mag-secure ang ating mga barko at eroplano, magpapatuloy ang ating search and rescue or search and retrieval. We owe it to the families na hanggat kaya natin, we will keep searching for their loved ones.
I'm curious, no, Admiral, I know kayo sa Navy, more of doon kayo sa rescue operations. Doon po sa mga na-rescue ninyo or na-retrieve ninyo na mga bodies, nakasuot po ba sila ng life jacket in both cases?
Not all of them ang nakasuot ng life jacket. But again, if we notice, Balok-Balok Island, it is part of the shipping route ng mga marginal fishermen and the ferry boats flying Basilan to Zamboanga. So every now and then, may mga barko dyan. It is not, kumbaga, madali lang. Each time there's an emergency, there will be other ships that would come to the rescue. So if you notice, bagamat may mga napinsala tayo dyan, may mga victims, of the 340 plus passengers, hindi ganun kadami. It's still sad that there were some victims, but hindi ganun kadami ang victims because a lot of ships and even marginal fishermen were able to respond.
Still, it's standard that everyone should be wearing those vests.
It is standard, but when a situation like that happens, the first option, the first course of action would be, if the ship is already sinking, to jump into the water bago makasuot ng life jacket, lalo kung medyo mahirap makahanap ng life jacket. So they hit the water, they hold on to any floating debris or to other passengers na may life jacket.
Pero hindi ho ba, whether masama ang panahon or not, as soon as you board a vessel at sea, you're supposed to wear a life jacket? Not
hindi
only
naman
when
po.
there's an
No.
accident. Isn't that the law?
No, the SOP is that when you board any ship, a transport vessel, a naval vessel, Coast Guard, you have to know where the life-saving equipment are, where the lifeboats are, where the life jackets are. And there will be a command given if you have to abandon ship or to wear life jackets. So it's not automatically na susuotin na lahat ng pasahero.
So, hindi po ba parang, kino-consider, Admiral, na baka dapat gawin itong SOP parang seatbelt? Pag upo mo pa lang dapat click-click, suot mo na agad. Minsan kasi ganun like sa Boracay, minsan ayaw nga lumayag nung maliit na bangka pag di mo suotin yung life jacket. Kasi magagalit daw yung Coast Guard. Yun yung sinasabi ng bangkero.
Yes, those are the smaller motor bangkas na mandatory naka-life jacket for the short trips.
Okay.
But for trips that take longer, for the bigger vessels, the life jacket is just in a place that is accessible, and the command will be given if necessary to wear life jackets already.
Pero Admiral, what if sa investigation makita na hindi pala enough din yung number of life
Yeah.
jackets on board? Is that a more serious concern at magiging liable na dyan yung shipping company?
There will be liabilities depending on the Board of Marine Inquiry, and the Coast Guard is a part of that board, a member of that board. But as a general practice, you should not load more passengers than each passenger should have at least one life jacket.
Okay, and how is the water temperature there, no, in southern Mindanao right now? I think if it's really too cold, baka po, mas tumaas yung number of casualties. But is it parang medyo okay naman po yung temperatura?
Yung temperature naman natin, ladies, is tolerable. Although we are in a cold spell right now because of the distance. Aphelion tayo ngayon, di ba? For the next 6 months, we'll have a cold spell. But the waters are not that cold. So it will be more of drowning or injury caused by being hit by some floating debris.
Okay.
All right. Now, Admiral, if we may move to another topic, well, we are thankful to the Chinese for rescuing the Filipinos on board the vessel in the West Philippine Sea. But then there has been an escalation of harsh words between the Chinese embassy or emanating from the Chinese embassy to our lawmakers and our officials. Kasama na dito si Tariela na in the midst of it all na naging subject pa ng complaint, ng diplomatic complaint ng China.
Yes. If you notice, for the past weeks, this started with the fisherman who was rescued 70 nautical miles west of Silangin, or just the mouth of Subic Bay, Larry Tomalis. And then this was followed by the assistance we rendered to a Chinaman who was electrocuted, and the ship was passing through Zamboanga. The Coast Guard was able to respond and to provide assistance to disembark him. And then we have the Devon Bay. So my stand on that is I would leave the diplomatic details to the Department of Foreign Affairs. But every mariner, every merchant ship is mandated to render assistance in the high seas to any ship, any person requiring assistance. And we are thankful to whoever would be able to help a Filipino fisherman, regardless of nationality. Tayo ay nagpapasalamat. What we don't like is we don't have to give a spin to this or to overemphasize, especially if the ship or the nationality conducting the rescue has a record of coercive and aggressive actions against the very fishermen that they have rescued. So it would leave a bad taste in the mouth. The intent would come into question. Being seafarers, let us extend a helping hand to anybody in the seas, high seas, who would require assistance. That's it. Thank you for that. Anything beyond that would put color to the action rendered.
Hanggang doon na lang po. Thank you very much. Moving on. Ganon.
Yes, hanggang doon lang. Even referencing where he was rescued. If the internationally accepted name of a rock or an island is based on international law or domestic law, they should refer to that, not on their customary law, and say that we have rescued somebody close to this island using their own name of that island.
But
So it will put in question. It will now become propaganda. Nawawala ang bisa, ang gandang loob ng rescue. Nagiging propaganda tuloy siya. As if they have no background of coercive and aggressive actions against us.
okay. But this also departs from their action when there was an incident when their own vessels hit each other. Hindi po ba nag-offer kayo ng tulong pero ayaw nila? Ayaw
Yes.
nila kayong mangialam doon sa pangyayari.
Our Coast Guard ships extended assistance. They offered
Yes.
to help in the search of their personnel. Not only one. I think 2 or 3 other ships in the vicinity. broadcasted on Channel 16 extending assistance. So it's normal practice for seafarers, for mariners. And we don't do that we do that without any fanfare. Regardless of nationality, pag kailangan ng tulong, tutulungan natin yan. And we expect the same to be rendered to our fisher folks or our merchant mariners.
So SOP lang yan. It's not out of the ordinary.
It's not out of the ordinary. It is expected actually of Coast Guardsmen.
Alright.
Yun ang trabaho ng Coast Guard, safety of life at sea.
Okay, but that incident aside, Admiral, and the word war no, between Manila and Beijing also on social media, kamusta po yung lagay ng situation on the ground, quote-unquote, on the sea, sa may West Philippine Sea, South China Sea? Can we say it's been status quo or has it gotten more tense, more heated?
Hindi naman. Yung ating monitoring, ladies, tuloy-tuloy naman. Yung ating maritime domain awareness, our ships are conducting their patrols under Western Command and Northern Luzon Command. Yung ating aircraft under both unified commands continue. We have an added mission with the discovery of a new Malampaya East 1, stacks of oil or gas. So that will be under Joint Task Force Malampaya. The AFP is busy looking after our maritime domain.
How much deployment or how many forces will you be deploying in that task group to watch for that East Malampaya gas field?
Alam nyo, ladies, when we speak of monitoring, back in the days of old, numbers ang pinag-uusapan. Today, it is capability. We may have fewer ships, but with the newer sensors, stronger reach of their sensors, we are now talking of the capability to monitor and to respond. And I would like to say the Philippine Navy has sufficient sensors which are sea-based, ground-based, air-based, and even space-based to monitor our critical areas, especially yung Malampaya. And we also have the response capability by sea and by air.
What happens, Admiral, if some foreigner dares encroach into that area, no, dun sa may East Malampaya? Do you guys
By
have...
foreigner, what nationality did you mean?
Most likely, it could be either Vietnamese or Chinese. Usually, yan lang naman yung nandyan, di ba?
Yes, in fact, in the past, this Joint Task Force Malampaya has been there for a good number of years. I think 25 or 30 years already. And there is an exclusion zone, not only for the rig itself, but even for the pipeline that goes all the way to Batangas. So there are times that there are intrusions, and we respond to them. We inform the people. Most of the time, mostly, I would say 99%, these people don't know na meron pala exclusion zone. And before today, right now, with the Malampaya East 1, before they get to the vicinity of Malampaya East 1, nasa malayo pa lang, malalaman natin.
Okay. Admiral, I remember at the start of the year, sinabi niyo po na the Philippine Navy is ready for any possible Chinese maritime incursion. But based on recent developments, are you seeing that tensions could really increase, not just now, but even throughout the year?
In the assessment report we gave, the year-end report for 2025, we contrasted 2024, 2025, and tried to look at what we would expect for 2026. Number one, the number of ships monitored in 2024 compared to 2025, there was an increase in the number of PLA warships, Chinese Coast Guard, and maritime militia from 2024 to 2025. We expect this to happen also in 2026. The integration of the Coast Guard, the interagency effort of the Chinese Communist Party is more pronounced in 2025 than in 2024. Back then, the PLA Navy would not be that close to the maritime militia or the Coast Guard in 2024 and previous years. In 2025, the PLA Navy was already closer to the Coast Guard and the maritime militia. So their direction right now is to integrate the interagency effort. And actually, ladies, this is highlighted by the collision last August 11 last year, yung Coast Guard nila and the PLA Navy. They have a lot of work to do when it comes to interagency coordination or operations, but they're going in that direction. We expect that to continue in 2026.
So the Chinese Navy na po yung nagkukumpas ngayon ng mga operations in the contested waters.
Hindi naman nagkukumpas.
Hindi naman.
Ang nakikita natin, nasa unahan pa rin ang maritime militia and the Coast Guard.
Okay.
But the PLA Navy is already closer compared to in 2024. Medyo nasa over the horizon pa sila.
Okay.
And what about the use of civilian vessels do you see that also this, civilian vessels, but actually being used by the Chinese military as also in their presence in the West Philippine Sea?
We are monitoring the maritime domain not only for the PLA Navy, the Coast Guard, maritime militia, but for all ships regardless of nationality. We have the capability, thanks to our partners and allies, to be able to see even if ships would turn off or switch off their AIS, their automatic identification system. So we have ways how to be able to check on this, regardless of whether these are gray ships, Coast Guard, or civilian vessels.
But you see that happening also this year?
So far, we have not seen sufficient numbers to give us a trend.
Okay.
There have been isolated incidents in the past
Okay.
of civilian vessels.
Because that can be protested internationally, right? It's you could say that
Trojan
it is
horse?
against international law.
Yes, yes. In fact, it's not only when they get within our EEZ. Our monitor is even beyond our EEZ.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for your time. That was AFP spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, can former political opponents Bongbong Marcos and Leni Robredo join forces to become the so-called new unity? A key opposition figure seems to think so. We have the details when the big story returns. Keep it here, One News.
Welcome back to the big story. The two impeachment complaints filed against President Bongbong Marcos have been referred to the House Justice Committee. With this development, the one-year ban in filing subsequent complaints against the president is now in effect. Earlier today, the second impeachment complaint was refiled at the House Secretary General's office and was accepted by SecGen Cheloy Garafil. Last Thursday, the OSG refused to accept the complaint as Garafil was out of the country then. After the filing, members of the Makabayan Bloc who endorsed the second complaint met with Speaker Boji D. ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino confirmed D already forwarded their case along with the first one filed by lawyer Andre De Jesus for inclusion in the House Order of Business. The first complaint accused the president of graft and corruption, culpable violation of the Constitution, and betrayal of public trust. The second petition also accused the president of betrayal of public trust, which focuses on 3 articles of impeachment based on the misuse of budget allocations and unprogrammed appropriations. Duterte supporters tried to file a third complaint last week, but was also turned back due to the SecGen's absence. Former Congressman Mike Defensor, who is part of this group, says it's unlikely they would refile it.
Actually, DJ Chacha, kahapon pa nag-uusap kami ng mga kasama ko. Ako personally kasi hindi ako inclined na bumalik pa sa Kongreso.
Meantime, the palace spokesperson tells Senator Amy Marcos to, quote, "Wag magpaka-plastic." This is after the presidential sister said in a video that despite so many people around President Marcos, no one is really taking care of him.
Ayan na nga ang sinasabi ko. Ayan, nagkasakit na nga si Bongbong, pambihira talaga. Wala kasing nag-aalaga sa kanya. Sino ba dyan sa nakapaligid sa palasyo, sa dinami-dami ninyo, ang talagang nagmamahal sa kapatid ko? Talikuran na niya, lahat ng nakapaligid dyan sa palasyo, panggulo lang yan.
Marcos was brought to the hospital last week for diverticulitis. Palace press officer Undersecretary Claire Castro says the chief executive is in a much better state now, already attending private meetings. Castro also denied reports that President Marcos had to undergo surgery.
Sa ngayon po ay masasabi natin maganda po ang kalagayan ng ating Pangulo dahil siya po ay kasalukuyang nasa meeting. Kung ano man mapag-uusapan, maaari kong maibigay bukas.
And just 2 years before the presidential race, former Senator Sonny Trillanes is pushing for a so-called new unit team. In an interview with 1PHS sa Totoo Lang, Trillanes sees supporters of former Vice President Leni Robredo and President Bongbong Marcos joining forces. The alliance of the former political opponents in 2022, Trillanes says, is the only chance to defeat the Dutertes.
Tinutulak ko nga ay magsanib pwersa pa ang middle forces, yung mga kakamping and the others with the administration supporters. Kasi pagka ganon, mas malaki yung tsansa talaga na matatalo nyo yung mga pwersa ng mga Duterte.
But Robredo's ally, Senator Risa Ontiveros, is cautioning against any drastic move at this point. She believes any unified candidacy needs careful discernment.
Yung iba pong mga tanong ay siguro kung ilalapit sa amin ay pag-iisipan at pag-uusapan, magkakaisahin din at a later stage. Pero first things first muna, pagkakaisa at sama-samang desisyon.
In a podcast with her sister, journalist Pia Ontiveros, Senator Risa agreed that the opposition needs to field just one candidate for the 2028 polls. So far, Vice President Sara Duterte remains ahead in pre-election surveys, with the latest WR Numero poll taken in November 2025 showing a 33% preference for Marcos's former running mate. Her closest rival, Senator Raffy Tulfo, came in at just 13%.
Only one, sabi ko parang Highlander to. There can be only one para may fighting chance ng opposition. If that becomes me, by that time, I will have learned to love it na and I will want it na. Talagang malakas ang sense of duty ko.
Meantime, the Duterte patriarch leads our other headlines this Monday, January 26. The International Criminal Court has declared former President Rodrigo Duterte fit to stand pre-trial proceedings. With this, Digong's confirmation of charges hearing is set for February 23. This is a delay of 5 months with the original schedule on September 23, 2025. Recall that the defense has sought an indefinite adjournment of the proceedings, insisting Duterte can't stand trial. But a panel of independent medical experts disagreed. In a unanimous decision, the pre-trial Chamber 1 ruled it is not persuaded by the assertion Duterte's short-term memory hinders him from participating in the trial. It is also adamant the former president can effectively exercise his procedural rights.
Another development, 3 more immigration officials have been relieved over deported Russian blogger Vitaly Dorovetsky's claim of special treatment while in jail. The BI recently accepted the courtesy resignation of a warden while 2 of his deputies were dismissed. Before this, 6 immigration personnel have also been sacked after Dorovetsky alleged being allowed to document his whole experience using a phone while detained for 9 months. The Russian blogger promises to reveal more in the next few days.
Even before naman po yung Russian vlogger na yan, wala naman pong ginawa yan kundi manira dito sa ating bansa. Kaya nga po siya napakulong. So ano pa po bang aasahan natin sa katulad niya na ang gusto lamang po ay gumawa ng kwento at for the views. But still, kung ano man po ang nasabi dyan at maibubunyag po niya, dapat lamang po din nating malaman para magkaroon ng tamang pag-iimbestiga.
In Maguindanao del Sur, the mayor of Sharif Aguac is now safe after a 4th assassination attempt since 2010. Mayor Ahmad Ampatuan believes the attempt on his life may have the same motive, but he has no idea who the mastermind is. Suspects in the ambush have been killed, while 2 of Ampatuan's escorts were injured. The suspects used an RPG-7, a weapon only used in war operations.
And in Oriental Mindoro, Governor Humerlito Dolor has discovered cracks and other defects at a road dike and esplanade along Mag-Asawang Tubig River in the towns of Nauhan and Victoria. The projects, with a total contract cost of over 400 million pesos, were completed in December 2023 and February 2024, respectively. Dolor accused the contractor, New Big 4J Construction, of deviating from the original plan. DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon said charges are now being prepared against the contractor.
Nakita natin yung sheet pile na binaon, 3 meters din lang at hindi 12 meters. So yan din ang basehan ng kaso nating final laban kay former Congressman Zaldico at ang SunWest. At ngayon, nakakulong na yung mga taga-DPWH at yung iba pang mga individual na sangkot dyan dahil substandard yung ginawa nila, hindi lang dahil kulang yung sheet pile, pero dahil ngayon, konting ulan lang ay gumiba na naman. So, lahat yan ay mananagot.
Now shifting to sports, Filipina tennis ace Alex Ayala is making her first appearance at the WTA 125 Philippine Women's Open. And she slugs it out with Russian Alina Sharaeva. And about 6 years since they first met on the court, Ayala wants payback. That story from mobile journalist Ivan Tarinque, who now reports to us live from the Rizal Memorial Sports Complex. Ivan, how's the situation there?
Uli, nagsimula na nga ngayong araw ang main draw ng kauna-unahang WTA 125 Philippine Women's Open dito sa Rizal Memorial Complex sa Manila. Isang action-packed tennis games ang ipinamalas ng mga manlalaro ngayong araw. With Filipina tennis ace at world number 49 Alex Ayala took the center court pasado alas 8 ngayong gabi, facing a familiar face, Alina Sharaeva, in the round of 32 of the tournament. Nagkaharap na ang dalawa noong 2020 kung saan Sharaeva emerged victorious sa kanilang laban. Fresh from her Australian Open stint, naniniwala si Ayala na she is prepared heading into the tournament. Currently, lamang si Ayala 2-1 in a best-of-3 set, with the winner advancing to the round of 16 sa torneo. Bukod kay Ayala, multiple Filipina tennis players also played earlier today. It's a Southeast Asian matchup naman ang laban ni Daniel Madis at Mananchaya Sawangke ng Thailand. Pero bigo si Madis kontra Mananchaya in 2 straight sets. Elizabeth Abarque also fell short against Japan's Mai Hontama 6-0, 6-0. The Pinay double pairing of Kay Emana and Justin Manea also lost to the pairing of Dara Simantia and Nicole Huergo 6-2, 6-2. Angeline Alcala and Victoria Pena also bowed out of the tournament after defeat against Sara Saito and Liu Yun. Pulin sa mga oras ito, ongoing pa ang laban ni Ayala against Sharaeva and looking for her payback after 6 years in the making. Pauline?
Ayan, ako Evan, napaka-historic talaga nitong Philippine Women's Open. No? Aside from this being the first time it's being held here in the Philippines, this is also a chance for Filipinos to catch Alex Ayala live. So hanggang kailan ba itong tournament na ito? At kamusta naman yung turnout ng mga fans, supporters? May mabibili pa bang mga tickets?
Yes, Paulino, it's a sold-out crowd nga yung mga oras ito. Actually, kung naririnig nyo, every point na nai-score ni Alex, talaga naghihiyawan yung mga spectators dito sa loob ng Rizal Memorial Complex, no? Pero kaya nga paalala ng mga tournament officials, no, merong proper decorum kung saan nga pag maglalaro yung mga players natin, kailangan mo na quiet muna for the meantime hanggang makascore. At saka ayan, naririnig natin ngayon yung parent cheers ng mga players pag merong ng mga audience pag merong something spectacular na gagawa yung kanilang mga players na naglalaro ngayon dito. Pauline?
All right, well, thank you very much for that update. That was mobile journalist Ivan Tarinque, right at the heart of the action in the WTA 125 Philippine Women's Open in Manila.
We're going to pause for another quick breather, but right after that, EDCOM 2 is done with its 3-year evaluation of the Philippine education system. What were the findings? Well, let's find out together when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
The big story is back with the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM 2, releasing its final report titled Turning Point, a Decade of Necessary Reforms The report marks the culmination of a 3-year intensive evaluation of the Philippine education system. The results? Well, a sobering wake-up call. And to tell us more about it is Dr. Carol Mark Yee, Executive Director of EDCOM2. I may call you Mark?
Yes,
okay.
yes, please.
Well, we talked to Congressman Romulo, and we were urged to look at the glass half full instead of half empty.
Yes.
So maybe the good news first, because some of the statistics may be misinterpreted, no? Na parang the longer you stay in school, the less proficient you become.
Okay, got it.
Can you explain
so the
that?
title is Turning Point exactly because we wanted to acknowledge that we are in a historic point in our history. We have the highest budget for education in the history of the country ever since. So this is the highest ever, 4.3% of GDP. Second, we are seeing that reforms are taking root.
They say that's misleading, huh?
Why?
Because some of the
It's not just for
amounts
DepEd, yeah.
is not just for education.
Basic education.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, understandably so. I mean, I would even defend that nutrition needs to be part of that budget. Early childhood should be part of that budget because, as we have always stood by, without investing in the earliest years of life, you cannot build anything on top of it. And
But for that, you're relying on DSWD, right?
among many actors.
Pero sige, the highest,
Okay.
hindi lang 4.2% of
Yes,
GDP,
yes.
but
the highest
that's being
ever in our
challenged.
history.
Okay.
But the successes are really taking root. In our first year, we were also here sharing our findings, and they were really quite depressing. Textbooks not delivered for an entire decade. Only 27 titles procured from 2013 to 2023. In just 2024, DepEd has already procured more than 100 titles, really bolstering the number of books reaching our students today. Second, the summer remediation programs already run by DepEd to implement a law that EDCOM commissioners passed last year. The ARAL program and the summer literacy remediation program, we found that students who were there for remediation for 20 days, when we did that study to estimate how much they learned, it was equivalent to 1.3 years worth of schooling.
Imagine for 20 days.
What they would have learned in a regular 1.3 years, they learned in just 20 days because it was well designed, focused, very targeted, which is what we have been clamoring for from the get-go. Teacher positions have finally been given for promotion. Right now, more than several tens of thousands of teachers are getting promoted. DepEd is saying their target is 100,000 this year alone. In year one, we shared 15 years for a teacher to get promoted from teacher 1 to 3. And so many things that we thought was almost impossible to achieve, things are happening with such great momentum. And so, yes, it is a turning point, but whether or not we stick to this is really the question, whether we will see real reforms happen to our education system so that we can really lift ourselves from this crisis.
Okay. So the bad news.
The bad news is nutrition. We found that more than 50% of children aged 3 to 5 are not getting nutrition supports from the DSWD supplemental feeding program. It is not reached. But that is the window of opportunity for really intervening. Because as we always say, if you don't give them the nutrition from 0 to 4, even if you feed them all the way up to high school, it will no longer reverse the damage to cognitive development. The second is maybe the data point that you've talked about with Kong Romulo, that we found that using the National Achievement Test results, from 30% proficiency at grade 3, by the time students reach grade 12, so far from the data that we've seen, it goes down to 0.47% proficient. That is 4 out of 1,000 senior high school students reaching proficiency at grade 12. The third is mass promotion, and I think...
But may you explain that drop?
Yes.
Is it because mga dati ng estudyante nung palpak na system yung nasa upper grades?
Yes,
Tama ba? That's how he explained
Yeah,
it.
because the graph was a bit strange, right? If you look at it, yung graph, they're not actually graphing the same group of kids.
Yes. As we said in
So it's hard to
our
compare.
statement, it is not longitudinal data. So it's a different batch, no? But it is the latest data that gives you a snapshot how are grade 3 students doing now, how are grade 12 students doing now. But
Kasi you can reach the conclusion that what?
Yeah.
What did they do for the rest of, I mean, as they grew older, they lost their so that's not the explanation.
Well, to us, what is clear is if you don't have foundations by grade 3, There is no way you can learn everything else you should have learned from grade 4 to 12 because to begin with, you did not have the basics of literacy and numeracy. And that is still our assumption, which is why when we are asked, so given this data, what do we do? It's doing what we have pushed for since last year, to fix the foundations. Because with a robust foundation, you can keep learning.
So the 30% at level 3, at grade 3,
Yes.
is actually already a result of the intervention?
Yes, starting to show the results of the intervention. Because one of the things that also came out just last month is we decongested the curriculum. So it used to have tens of thousands, actually 12,000 competencies that was reduced by 70%. And the data from PIDS tells us now that usually around the world, you don't expect significant improvements in learning just because of a curriculum. But to us, because it was just so congested, you are seeing gains already among grade 2 students. So in tandem with the remediation program run by DepEd, you're seeing that our learners now at grade 3 are actually able to read, and more so.
Yeah. So I'm well and good with those grade 3 and below because I know you will just strengthen this remedial program, the literacy program. It seems to be working. What then do we do with the grade 4 to the grade 12s who are really suffering? The numbers are so dismal, Mark. And so how do we try to fix
At grade 12, parang ano pang pag-asa nila?
Yes. So, well, that is the beauty now of the coordination between DepEd, CHED, and TESDA. We're saying that there should not be dead ends in our education system. And so, yes, we went through a very difficult period. They also, a good number of our grade 7 to 10 students also went through the pandemic when they were supposed to be learning literacy and numeracy. Now, the question is, can you catch up 5 years, 6 years of lost learning? Not quickly, right? And so what we need to do is to make sure that on one hand, DepEd develops their intervention programs in a way that is customized to the needs of these high school students who are still struggling with basic competencies, and also maybe rethink how they will teach the next school year already.
The other thing, Mark, is the, no learner left behind, which basically means walang bumabagsak, walang nare-retain.
Yes.
Lahat nagpo-progress,
Yes.
even if they're not ready. I know that it's unfair to keep retaining students because dagdag pasakit yun sa parents. Nahirap-hirap na nga magpaaral.
Yes. And
But also, it's also unfair for the student to kind of just try to flounder their way around. So what is the solution for those that are caught in that bind?
Right. So for us, that's one of our, I guess, strong points, strong recommendations to end mass promotion practices immediately. And what is it? It's a component of maybe 4 to 5 things. One is the grade transmutation policy of DepEd. When you're actually 60, you get a 75 in your report card. And so if you get a 75, you pass. You don't even need to do summer classes. You don't even need to go through remediation programs. So that needs to be revised immediately. The second is the rating kasi of the principals. What happens is, if you're rating, if you have a dropout, if you have a non-completer, if not all of them pass, the rating of the principal gets affected.
Ganun ba?
Yes, and the performance of the school is also frowned upon. And so there is so much pressure for the teachers.
So how will this be implemented?
This
is just recommendatory, right?
Yes, to revise our targets. The targets that are set by DepEd with DepDev and DBM, because until you put there, it should be 100% completion rate. It's not realistic. You can't expect that all students 100% will complete, because normally, really, students need some more time than others, need remediation. So our proposal is, and we sat down with Secretary Angara and the leadership with the commissioners of EDCOM to say, why not maybe reframe it? Percentage of students who are struggling, who are actually supported, and give the resources to support. And so those are the beginning points of the conversation. I think DepEd is on the same page when it comes to really figuring out how to cut the roots, the very deep roots of these practices, which is in the culture and not really a policy to promote everyone. But there is commitment to actually solving it.
Well, what surprised me, Mark, with the learning crisis in the Philippines is that it's not just limited to public schools, but private schools are also suffering.
Yes.
So even though they don't deal with congestion and the problems that public schools encounter, meron ding crisis doon. Why?
Yes. So 3 things. I would always speak with private schools and I ask them, for DepEd, I understand it because of all of these constraints that we're facing in procurement, etc. For you, why is it the case? First is, some of their students, actually a good number of their students, also come from public schools because they are the feeders to all the private schools. The second is all of their teachers are products of our system. And so if you have a large system where there's poor quality education, where we're not able to support teachers well in terms of their training, then that's also what you get, no? And then the third is early childhood education and nutrition. The data that we've seen in the past 2 years is that neither rich nor poor are getting the right nutrition that they require, and they're also not getting access to early childhood education in the
Really?
country.
Even if you have the money to
Yes,
buy
because-
good nutrition?
Because it is information, awareness of what should be given. Because we see now that most of the food that is given to our children, carbs heavy. Not enough protein, not enough fat. And I keep repeating this over and over again.
Fast food.
Yes.
It's a war kasi, di ba? Trying to force feed a toddler.
I know,
like
I know.
healthy food. I mean, we've all been through that. Trying
I
to feed
know.
your pamangkin, your kids, your apo. It's hard, Seth.
Not me.
She should
me
teach
when
us.
I was
I know.
raising my
Maybe
kids.
she can give a
Seth, can you
lecture.
give a lecture how to
Can we
be a
do-
strict?
Can we do a vlog on that?
But how does
Wait,
test? Okay.
I'm a lola already.
Vlog is
You're
fine.
the best.
Well,
to
the
give
studies that
advice.
we've also found out tells us that in the Philippines, 40% of parents are not home while their kids are young
Yeah.
because they need to migrate to Manila, to Cebu, to other parts of the world to work. And so they're left with either panganay,
They're-
either auntie, either lolo
Na
lola,
wala ring alam.
or kasambahay.
Spoilers.
Or kasambahay. And so we really need to look at an expansive view of the Filipino household and make sure that they are also aware.
With early childhood education, I know some LGUs like
Yes.
voluntarily offer like daycare with
Yes.
teachers. They fund this themselves.
Yes.
They ask private institutions for help, for donations. Are we trying to like, I don't know, make this into something
Well,
more?
it is actually their responsibility and has been so for the past 13 years, since
Can we
2013.
punish those that are not?
But our question is, who holds them accountable?
Exactly.
Because we talk to DILG, we talk to ULAP, we talk to the leagues of
Di
all.
ba merong
Yes.
board at the local level that's
Council.
supposed
The local school boards.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Oh.
But not so the local school board has been
Baka in-name lang.
has been organized that the co-chair is the mayor, the other co-chair is the superintendent of DepEd. Early childhood is not within the scope of the superintendent, and so, but under the law, the funding should come from this board. So what we're saying is, do they even know that they're supposed to fund it?
Yeah.
Do they even
Are they
know?
aware na may ganito silang dapat na
Exactly. And so the new law, the ECCD System Act of 2025, RA 12199, tries to solve that. And so it is much clearer now about the responsibilities of LGUs. DILG is now part of that board and should help make sure that all LGUs are acting on it. And for poorer municipalities with no resources, there is funding in the local government support fund for the first time to support early childhood education that they can apply for and get
Can
support.
we hold them accountable if they renege on their?
That is our request.
Okay, in closing, to summarize, where is the really the bright spot and where is the biggest challenge?
You know, we've not seen, the biggest challenge is literacy. The literacy is the gateway to all learning. And so if our students are not reading, then we are really in big trouble. The bright spot that I would say is that we've not seen such unprecedented attention on education than we've seen in the last year or two.
We had to hit rock bottom.
I know.
That's why.
Exactly. And thank God that we did, because now
What?
we're awake. No, because
There's
what
there
I've
was
been
no
saying,
other way to do it.
Nagising.
because what I've been
nagising.
saying is, you know, all of these national achievement tests, why are we all so surprised now? This has been out there for the past
You know,
2 decades,
I saw-
but no one has made a fuss about
There was a
it.
1925 Monroe survey
Yes.
where grade 4 students were performing badly. So it's been 100 years
Exactly.
of this problem.
Exactly. Pero bakit ngayon lang tayo nagigising? Bakit lang
it's long
tayo
enough.
ngayon nagugulat? And I think it's about time. And we should make sure that not just now, because sometimes we have the tendency to forget
Yeah.
about things, get distracted.
Na talagang this will be carried through long
Exactly,
term.
which is why we should be here, and hopefully you will be here for the next 10 years, discussing this, making sure that everything happens, because the reforms...
As long as you're there.
Okay, is that the promise?
That's the deal.
Was
Should
for
we
you
sign?
for
Should we
4
sign a
years.
contract?
We will,
can.
yeah, we will.
This is a contract.
Monitor.
Everyone's watching.
Because it's so important. And really, we see that there's so much potential of every Filipino child. We have failed them for far
Definitely.
too long, and they don't deserve that. They deserve better.
You know what parents say? Yan lang ang kayamanan na pwede kong ipamana sa'yo.
Exactly.
You know. So thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
Dr. Carol Mark E., Executive Director of EDCOM 2.
And on that note, that's it for the big story this last Monday of January. Thank you so much for watching.
Time flies, but we're back here tomorrow at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.
Kapatid, we are One News All Sides all the time. Have a good night.